Hi there everyone, my name is Dominic and welcome to Banebush, a dark visual novel game with a horror tone to it that I bought mostly on aesthetic alone. The art looks really cool, apparently there's a lot of branching choices, and I've kind of been in the mood for these kind of story games more than like super gameplay heavy ones. So the entire game is designed by the authors to be very red. Adjust the red saturation to your comfort level, referring to the image above, or leave the settings at default to fully immerse yourself in the atmosphere. Yeah, no, I don't mind it being red. It's my favorite color. It's spooky, it's moody, I love it. And I got an achievement for leaving it very red. Grandma Rita, where silence reigns, unlike the noisy cities. Okay. What'd that mean? In the darkness that swallows the light and among the dense forest near the village, a secret hides. People whisper tales about a creature living in the dark forest. This is the story of Banebush, a mighty Leshy. Few have ever faced him directly. Yet anyone stepping into the thicket feels his presence in every trembling leaf, in every creak of the trees. Leshy, is there any connection to that Leshy and the Leshy in Inscription? Because there's a character named Leshy who's like a god of animals, who's like a beast person. So I'm like, is he like a legend that I didn't realize maybe was already an existing character? Could be. I believe this dude is originally Russian, so I'm going to be a little bit forgiving if there are some translation errors here and there. Alright. Beasts hide in their burrows, birds fall silent, and trees bow to the forest master at the sound of his ancient roots moving. Everyone's blood runs cold in his presence. He was feared more than any creature. That's why he's called Banebush. Okay. Sometimes as you wander the forest, you hear creaks and cries. Those are restless souls still roaming among the oaks, seeking peace for their wrongs against the Leshy. For centuries, villagers passed down legends of Banebush, about how he drove travelers mad, leaving them lost in the forest, and his terrible deeds. Anyone who disrespected his realm faced his savage wrath and became food for worms among the ancient trees. Jesus. Fear, Banebush child. Grandma Rita, I don't want to come visit you no more. You scary as fuck. And if you meet him, run without looking back. I'm gonna run without looking back from this hangout, Grams. Yeah, Mama, I don't want to go there no more. Grandma turns into demons sometimes. Lyoshka. So what? He still roams our forests. Just listen. Grandma, why do you think I look like this? Why do you think I'm all fucked up? You think I'm lying to you? Grandma, maybe you're the demon. During the bloody times of the patriotic war, our village fell on hard times. Bandits began raiding and tormenting the villagers. The strong men who could have resisted the hooligans were taken to the front. Only boys and young lads were left with the girls. No one to defend the village, so those scoundrels ran amok. They took the last dishes, stripped our village to the bone. Only one brave boy decided to help the village. Is that me? Am I the brave boy? He ventured deep into the forest to find Banebush. Our village was part of his domain, so he should protect it if properly asked. He was ready to do anything to drive those cursed outsiders from the village. For better or worse, the boy found the Leshy. Oh, is that scary face? Is that the Leshy? It's not Grandma? Okay, I thought Grandma morphed into that, like Resident Evil style, so okay. Got it. Grandma is her own thing, okay. No one knows the outcome of their meeting. Some say Banebush took the boy under his protection, turning him into a wild wolf. In his new form, the brave boy tore apart all the marauders. But others claim Banebush destroyed the poor boy to ensure no one disturbed his solitude. It doesn't matter who thinks what. What matters is that neither the boy nor the marauders were ever seen again. Okay, Grandma, when I said I wanted a nighttime story, this isn't what I meant. Grandmama, I was thinking more Winnie the Pooh, perhaps. Maybe Alice in Wonderland. Is this too much to ask for? In my childhood, Grandma told me stories, or Grandma told many stories. The ones about forest spirits and local folklore were my favorites. I always remember her tales with warmth. Hold on, I gotta get close to the mic. This is story time, so... I especially loved the stories about the evil Leshy Banebush, who, according to legend, lived in the nearby woods. Grandma often jokingly scared me, saying Banebush would come at night and drag me into the forest if I didn't dig in the garden or I misbehaved. A frightening yet truly wonderful and carefree childhood at the village. I miss it. Was it carefree though? Grandma's like, listen here, you go get carrots or unless she drag you into forest and eat you. Okay, Grandmama. After Grandma's death, I inherited her house. That shit's haunted. Sometimes I feel ashamed that I didn't take care of it. I went once to handle the paperwork, but then never found the time. I'd like to sell it, but who wants an old ramshackle hut in the middle of nowhere? I do. I'll take that. Sounds peaceful. I have terrible neighbors, so, one specifically, my little neighborhood where I live is, relatively quiet, but I have one neighbor who, they do real crackhead shit, and I don't mean, the white people will be like, oh my god, they act like crackheads, and it's just, a mentally ill person, or it's someone of a race that they're just bigoted against or whatever. When I say crackhead, I mean random people show up at their house all day and night, for, drop-offs and pickups and all that. And there was one time where some random guy who has never been there before or since was out front, went into the house, came back out, and went, Wu-Tang! Woo! And then he sprinted down the street, stopped, huffed for a minute, and then sprinted back to the door, and he was done. So, when I say crackhead shit, I mean actual drug addict kind of behavior. So, that's what keeps me up at night while my sleep schedule is so fucked up. And they're obnoxious on top of that. If it was all that, but they were nice, that'd be one thing, but they're not. They're rude as hell. Alright. It's no secret that getting involved in criminal schemes can lead to serious trouble. I didn't think it would happen to me this time. I can only hope that Fomin and his thugs won't find me here. To lose a package of bagged drugs weighing a couple of kilograms. Fucking awesome. I went to pick up the goods outside the city. Everything was calm and smooth. I arrived at the spot, dug up what I needed, and headed back along the same route. But on the way back, a car cut me off. Clearly, this didn't bode well. Before I could understand anything, I saw 3 hulking men stepping out of a black car with tinted windows. I just got here. I'm always getting mugged whenever I play games, as soon as I start. Of course, with a gun to your head, anyone would hand over the package of drugs without argument. My hide's worth more to me. I mean, yeah, fair. I'm ready to swear this was a setup by Fomin. Either way, I'm in deep trouble. I know full well how couriers are treated in these situations. Go to the police? What's the point? What would you tell them? That someone stole your drugs? Perfect. What a fairy tale life. I just hope no one knows where I am. I left most of my things in the city. Didn't seem to be a tale. I need to lay low. The journey to the village was quite long. Maybe there would be a chance to get a little more sleep on the way. It felt strange coming back here after so many years, as if I had been avoiding this place all along. During my absence, the village became completely abandoned. In my childhood, it seemed brighter. There were more people. Now there's almost no one left here. Maybe a dozen old folks living out their days and me running away from my problems. It is a story trope that I like, the whole returning to your forsaken hometown after life gets bad, and you have to you're contending with all the things you left behind and ran away from while also running from something else, which is the reason you're back there in the first place. It's a plot point that gets used a lot, but I think for good reason. It really helps to set up an interesting dynamic for your character. I quickly found the road. In childhood, my neighbor friend and I often raced from Grandma's house to the bus stop. It seemed this path is forever etched in my memory. The house looked old but stood sturdy despite years of loneliness. The roof sagged slightly but looked reliable. The paint had peeled off, revealing the wood darkened by time. Yeah, this house needs long and expensive repairs. I'm afraid it'll cost more than the house itself. I'm always where are we trying to get to? Because I'm are we going to go to the house or we're going to circle back? Because I'm which one gives me more options and which one is going to cut things off? I'm assuming we're going to investigate the house more, so maybe we should look around. But while we're here, I also don't want to miss it. Maybe while we're here, we should go in the house, because I'm assuming we're going to go out and look around later. I don't know. I'm just going to go with my instincts here. That's what you have to do with these kind of games. You can't second guess too often because, you're not trying to do it the right way. You're trying to do it whatever is your instinct for it and go from there. The door yielded to my efforts with a loud creak. The influx of air stirred the dust, making it swirl around the entire room. Everything looked as if time had stopped from the moment I was last there. Old TV. I thought there was just an evil eye in the wall. I didn't even question it. On the shelf stood an old TV with a large crack on the screen. As far as I remember, it didn't work. Father accidentally broke it when we were sorting through things in the house after Grandma's death. Back in the early 2000s, Mom and Dad bought it for the elders, spending part of their savings. I remember us all sitting together in front of it, listening to Grandma swearing as he adjusted the antenna cable to get a signal. Now the TV was just a gloomy witness to past joys, silent and covered in dust. On the wall, in an ornate wooden frame, hung a photo of Grandma Rita. Her face in the photo, taken on a photocore, was calm with a faint trace of fatigue. There was nothing special about this photo except for the quiet sadness of days gone by. On the stove, covered in a thick layer of greasy dust, stood an old kettle with worn spots on its body. Grandma used it to brew fragrant morning tea for Grandma and me, made from carefully grown and harvested garden herbs, mint, lemon balm, and oregano. I'm not a tea person, so I don't know if that sounds great or not, but that's nice y'all were living here together, though it's kind of like where, in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory where they're all living. Oh shit, I skipped it. Hold on. I think I can go back. God damn it. Is history an option? Oh, it can. That's such a good feature. God, having a visual novel game have a history option so you can read previous sections, that's so, it's so obvious, but a lot of games don't do that. So if you skip something, you're just screwed. Thank you, Gabe. Thank you. All right. I remember during one of those tea times, Grandma was baking something delicious in the oven while telling me how Dad and Grandpa Spent an entire day bringing this stove from a neighboring town. That was right after Grandma complained to Grandpa that her stone stove had cracked. Got it. At that time, gas was just being installed in the village, and the stove became a new wonder of technology for her, as she liked to say. I looked around the room that opened before me, feeling how the house no longer felt as familiar as it once did. This was no longer the cozy summer retreat where I used to spend my time with great pleasure. Peeling walls, dust everywhere, a greasy bedspread from the perestroika era, and the smell of mold. Okay. I managed to pay for electricity and gas in the city. There's enough food for tonight, and tomorrow I can go to the village store. After all, the house had everything needed to lay low for a while. The time was 8:31 p.m. 2 bars of signal, July 5th. Of course, a couple missed calls from my friends. Maybe I should turn off the phone just in case. Though I doubt Foreman would think to track me through my phone. The bed, which had miraculously survived all this time, creaked. That's not a bed, that's a goddamn couch. But look, maybe they're one and the same, alright? Maybe it's like it's a pull-out bed. And pulling out is probably what your mom should have done since you're such a fuck-up. Old springs were felt beneath the thick fabric. I can't relate. I sleep on a purple mattress. It doesn't use springs. Like, I don't relate to you. I'm sorry. I can't relate to this game. What a dump, I thought. In my childhood memories, the house really looked better. It was alive. It's hard to imagine how my grandparents lived their whole conscious lives here. I think they would have been happy anywhere together. Mom said that when Grandpa died, Grandma took it really hard. Her health quickly deteriorated, and she refused to go to the hospital in the city, no matter how much Mom insisted. Less than a year after Grandpa's death, Grandma passed away. It's crazy how often that happens, because it's like our emotions are so, in so many ways, tied to our mental and physical health, and it's always interesting to me how, the body can sort of, it senses when you're giving up in that sense. And not in people use the reverse of this to be like, oh, that's why you can use your brain to heal maladies in your system. It's like, no, it's not that. But your stress and your anxieties and your suffering and all that do lower your immune system, and they do make your cognitive function slower and all of these things. In addition to the fact that obviously if you're feeling all of that, then most likely you're not taking care of yourself the way you're supposed to. You're probably not eating, you're probably not getting exercise, you're probably not getting any sun. It's interesting to see how we are such inherently social creatures, or we're meant to be. I feel like nowadays a lot of us miss out on that. And I think that's definitely a huge factor in why so many of us are so anxious and depressed all the time. In addition to the fact that the world is in some ways a hellscape, and if you're in America, it's starting to get really fucking janky here. It's getting really bad with the current administration. But on top of those things, the fact that when we're so pressured to work all the time, to not have enough money to be able to enjoy our lives actively, then we don't get to use that time, that any free time we have, to connect with people in our lives, physically be there in person with them, to be able to just enjoy that experience, to enjoy the presence of another human. And it's I think we're feeling the effects that you see what old people go through in loneliness when they lose a spouse. So many people now are going through similar kind of emotional toil just as an everyday person, not because they lost a partner, but because they don't even have access oftentimes to see friends and family that often, not nearly as often as we're wired to do. Because we were wired to be in a community, physically have a neighborhood or a tribe or a space where almost every day you were seeing people who directly were connected to your community and your area. And now we don't have that basically at all. So anyway, I just think that's interesting to see how I think we all feel the effects of that in a way that used to only affect people often who are older and were at a space in their life where they were maybe a little bit more isolated just because the younger generations were living their own lives. And now we all are in a way feeling that. All right, I hope they're happy together now. Yeah, sorry, Grandma, for thinking you were a demon at the beginning. You were just warning us. I mixed up the pictures. Excuse me. You were a lovely lady. Don't get me wrong. I need to stop thinking about sad things. It's depressing enough already. Stop ruining an already lousy mood. Maybe I should have some tea. Sure. It's 100-year-old tea. I'm sure it's fine. It's not going to make you turn into a zombie from The Last of Us. The flame ignited. Looks like the gas is on. Cool. We can blow this place up if the demons show up. Damn, it's all such a blur. Thoughts about the bastards I'm hiding from wouldn't leave my mind. How long can I stay holed up in this dump like a mouse? A month? A year? And if they find me, then what? It's clear they won't listen to me. First they'll break my finger, then toss me off a bridge into the river. Maybe they'll give me a chance to work it off. Then I'd have to slave away for them for free for who knows how long. Easy money turned into problems I don't know how to fix. In endless attempts to figure out how to cover the loss, I achieved nothing. My savings were around 90 grand, earned in my spare time. Of course, that's not enough to pay them off or replace the goods, and I don't have the right connections. The package delivery coordinates were given anonymously. The only person I know is Pasha Foman, recruiter in this business and, incidentally, a 2-meter-tall boxer and enforcer. Now I regret abandoning my attempt to succeed in tech repair, but back then it was a struggle to make ends meet. I started to drift off to sleep. One by one, childhood images came to mind. It's just so sad, too, the idea of, like, you're finally returning home, and that should be a happy thing, that should be a positive, but it's like, your grandparents aren't there, your parents aren't there, you lived your whole life separately, and now that you're finally coming back to your home, like your childhood home, everything's wrong in life, you know? It's very sad. Children's laughter, bright sunlight, happiness, and no responsibility. My biggest fear back then was Grandma scolding me if I didn't come home before dark. If only I could stay in that moment, I'd never have ended up in the situation I'm in now. Unfortunately, time doesn't lie, and life moves on. I dreamt of the football field that was the pride of our village. Sturdy goals, even with nets, just like real football players. As kids, we could play football on that field all day long. Friendship, laughter, gum, fresh air. And in the evening, Grandma waited at home with warm tea and the most delicious food in the world, made with love. So far, the writing is actually quite good, I think. Like, the actual prose of the sentences is, like, nicely written. It feels, like, legitimately like we're reading a first-person novel, because some of these, like, visual novel games, they're completely just exposition, but they don't have necessarily sort of an artistic style or feel to the tone of the writing itself. You know what I mean? The writing's kind of workmanlike, you know, and that's, you know, just the nature of the fact that writing is hard, and making something feel both you're delivering the information, but writing it in a unique way is tricky. And so far, I think this is hitting a good balance. All right. In the dream, a memory appeared as if it were real. One evening in midsummer, I decided to take a shortcut through the forest to Grandma's house. The local boys said you could noticeably shorten the route if you went straight through it without turning. I was running late for dinner because of an overly long game of football. This also reminds me a lot of oh god damn it! What's the point and click games that I really like on the channel? The Midnight Scene. It's kind of giving me that feel, and I love Midnight Scene. So, the forest surrounding our village was very dense and impenetrable. It rustled with many voices of nature, as if trying to drown out the sounds of village bustle. Grandma and Grandpa never let me wander through it, warning me I'd get lost and a wolf would take me away. I'd listen to Grandma and Grandpa. They seemed to be in the know as to what nightmares exist in here. I moved straight ahead, confident I was heading in the right direction. The sunlight filtered through thick branches, casting a play of light and shadow on the ground. The forest sounds grew more eerie, began to feel as if someone was watching me. The thicket grew denser around me, and I started to realize I'd been walking too long, even though the boys said it wasn't far. Wandering along forest paths and aimlessly weaving between trees, I completely lost my way. I'm lost. I'm going to die in the forest, I thought, on the verge of tears. Oh, Jesus, don't make me choose. I feel like the thing is, if you go left or right, there's a chance of you looping back around and doing a circle, which is more dangerous than just going straight ahead and just pushing through. Because at least then you know you're making progress and you might hit a landmark of some kind. Let's go straight. Oh, God. Straight. I gotta commit to it. Straight. Straight. The dense grove stretched endlessly. The crunch of dry leaves echoed underfoot, and the air was filled with the forest scents. I took a deep breath, hoping to catch the scent of pine needles and fresh moss. But a stench, seemingly coming out of nowhere, suddenly hit my nose, making me feel nauseous. I grimaced and held my breath, peering into the thicket. Jesus. Suddenly, a dark and terrifying hunched figure leapt out of the forest. Yeah, they fucking did. Jesus Christ. A monster, wrapped in roots-like armor, materialized among the trees and stared straight at me. My heart pounded out of my chest, and a long scream escaped my mouth. Without realizing it, I bolted with all my strength. I leapt over obstacles, scratched myself on bushes, anything to keep from stopping. My lungs felt like they would burst, but I kept running. Run without looking back. Ooh. Ooh, creepy. Oh, that was really good. Like, I've said it before, but these kind of visual novel games, they live or die based on how immersive you make the experience, because you're not just reading a book. You have sound effects, you have visuals, like, and you can get creative with them, especially with sound. And as like someone who sound edits so many things, I love the use of the tea kettle bringing him out of the dream, because that's a shrill, harsh noise that fits into the nightmare. Like the use of like if you're listening on headphones, you'll hear when he's running, it goes from right to left. It actually is like moving across the stereo sound space, you know, that kind of stuff. Little stuff that just like, it really ratchets up the tension rather than having it just be like a looping forest sound, you know, versus like sound effects and then there's some low ambient kind of dark thematic music or kind of tones underneath and then stuff layered on top of that. It's really good. I'm Lexi. Yeah, my first reaction to the dream slipped out aloud. What a load of crap. I'd almost forgotten about that incident. Back then, crying and scratched up, I ran home shouting, "Grandma, I saw the Banebush in the forest." After my outburst, Mom gave her a hard scolding, saying her scary tales were driving me crazy. It seemed like it was after that incident that I started having nightmares so often. So maybe Mom was right. Without Grandma's creepy stories, I might have been less jumpy. Ugh. I long ago convinced myself that back then my overactive imagination mistook a tree stump for a monster. I still don't know what I saw that day, but one image always remains in my memories of it. Aleshi, just as Grandma described in her tales, stood in the middle of the forest staring at me with its red eyes. No, I didn't DoorDash anything. I'm good. Aleshi, you're not in this scene yet, all right? I get to exposit for 5 more minutes before you come in and kill me. My thoughts were interrupted by a sharp knock on the window, as if someone had thrown a stone at it. They couldn't have tracked me, could they? It's been like an hour. They can't be here already. No, Foeman shouldn't even know about this place. Unless he tracked me through my phone. No, that's just paranoia. I don't want to cut myself off completely. Jesus, I need to check what it is. I don't want to, but it's going to be something scary and not good. All right. There was nothing outside the window. Hold on. What did I miss? There's nothing outside the window, just the yard as usual, just run down. If life gets better, I'll definitely tidy this place up. My grandma and grandpa really loved this place. I need to pay my respect to my departed relatives. Jesus, fuck, he's fucking the window. Stop it. Stop humping the glass, goddammit. You made me drop my phone, you stupid bird. Where are you flying, you crazy bird? You just teabagging me. Totally lost it, scaring me like that, you lunatic. This kind of stress could send me to an early grave. City or here, it's all a madhouse. I need to relax, pour some tea, and eat something. I cleared the table and started preparing my first dinner in the village in a long time. Now, what'd you make? What would even be there? I pulled out bagels and a couple of candies from my backpack, hastily bought at a kiosk near the station. I brewed myself some green tea with mint. Funny, it looked just like it did in childhood. Those were good times, though even last week wasn't so bad. Pushing away gloomy thoughts, I took a sip from my mug, imagining it was the same tea Grandpa used to brew for me as a child. But alas, the taste was far from the same. That is so weird that that's like a universal experience is when you're a kid, like, colors seem brighter, everything you taste is so new, and it's like, I think it just dulls, one, because of repetition, like everything's legitimately brand new as you grow up. You're tasting it for the first times in your life. Everything is it's like a revelatory experience. And then as you age, obviously, it just stops meaning anything, especially because, like, a meal is something that you're just most of the time doing because you have to eat, and then you have to get back to work, or you have to get to sleep, or you have to get homework done, or you have to do whatever your responsibilities might be. And it's not something you're taking in and enjoying. It's not like being a kid and you're taking a break from a summer day, or like I used to ride bicycles with like the neighbor kids in my neighborhood, you know, and we'd ride all over the place, and then we'd come back and take a break and have a bite to eat and something to drink, you know. Like, it's not this thing where it's an experience, not just a functional thing you have to get over with in your day, you know. And it's like, I think that's why how dull adulthood feels compared to childhood can have that effect on us, you know. All right, I felt a little better, but I couldn't sleep peacefully without making sure another bird wouldn't fly into my window at night. I don't know. It was already dark outside. I looked around, trying to spot that crow, but there was no one in sight. The same overgrown yard in the dense forest with trees swaying gloomily in its shadows. I'm wondering if I should have looked around first, but maybe something worse would have happened if I had looked around in the forest instead of just coming straight inside. After a long day and a warm drink, I felt sleepy. Me all the time. Tonight I could really use a good rest. But as always, anxious thoughts crept into my mind before sleep. Who in the box? Who's serving face in the casket? I remember there was a goddamn America's Next Top Model episode where they had to be in a casket and get laid into the ground, and I think they were the 7 Deadly Sins was the theme. It's so campy, but it's such a fun episode. It's one of the middle seasons that has it. All right, a coffin with my body slowly lowers into the grave. Each thud of earth on the lid sounds like a final heartbeat. I'm gone, just cold and silence remains. My body will dissolve into this earth, decay, and become food for worms. Mom will stand at the grave, her eyes swollen from tears, unable to believe her only son is now in this wooden box. Will she think it's some mistake that I'll rise any moment to hug her? What will I leave behind? Everything that seemed important will turn to dust and rot with me. I will be forgotten. Everything I did, good or bad, it will all be swallowed by the earth. Yeah, I like the writing. There's a nice balance of it. It's poetic without feeling pretentious. Oh god, the flies buzzing is always scary because it's like something like fetid, something rotten is nearby, and that's so unsettling. In the dead of night, something suddenly yanked me out of sleep. The village's nighttime silence was defiled by an incessant, nerve-wracking buzzing. A stubborn fly, as if choosing me as its nighttime victim, ruthlessly disturbed the peace. Persistently trying to get into the house, it seemed to be testing my patience. What now? It's weird, I was worried about us being out in the forest, but it's almost worse being in this cabin with just our little window to peek out and try to deal with everything. I got up from the bed and looked out the window at the silhouettes of the dark forest swallowed by the night. The stubborn fly incessantly crawled on the glass. I stood watching the insect, feeling anxiety creep over my mind for no apparent reason. You gotta do the demon, you gotta do the... What? Oh! Oh, it's a lot of flies. Jesus. Well, that's chapter 1. That's good. We survived at least. Oh, creepy. The atmosphere is honestly pretty scary. Oh, man. This is how it felt, like this kind of like that hazy nightmare dream kind of thing. I used to have that a lot. I used to have really bad sleep paralysis in mostly my early 20s. I was in a very unhappy relationship at the time. I was working my first proper full-time job, and I was commuting down to LA for it. And the job itself, the bosses were really unpleasant. So it was like this horrible cocktail of stress and all that went on for like a year straight. And I started getting horrible sleep paralysis, horrible reoccurring nightmares. And what's funny is actually recently I'm like, I still need to get fully diagnosed, obviously, so I'm not trying to self-diagnose, but there seems to be some mounting evidence that I might have narcolepsy because I have a thing, I have the symptoms of a thing called cataplexy, which is when you feel like a really strong emotion, you lose like muscular coordination. Like for some people, it's really severe. Like if you make them laugh too hard or angry or cry or whatever, they'll like just like their whole upper body will just collapse. And you're not unconscious. That's the thing. You're not fainting. You're fully cognizant in your head, but it's like your whole muscle just... What the fuck? Hold on, I'm gonna close my window. There's someone driving a motorcycle around outside on my street back and forth, and they're so fucking loud. Hold on. But anyway, that's what cataplexy is. So I didn't realize that I had that because it only happens during select, very specific scenarios when my emotions are at a certain... let's say, because this is YouTube, let's say at a certain climax is the time where it sometimes can happen. And I just thought that was normal. I just thought that was what happened to everybody in that scenario. And it turns out it's not. It turns out most people don't have like lose full muscular control for a few seconds at a time. So I don't have it severe. Like it's not like it would like be a hazard for me like driving or doing anything else. But at the same time, understanding that and looking into it and seeing that there's like, oh yeah, if you have cataplexy, there's like a 99% chance you have some form of narcolepsy. If you have narcolepsy, you probably had sleep paralysis as a child and a young adult, which I did like crazy. And to the point where it would sometimes be like hallucinations in the sleep paralysis. They were like, you probably had a whole mix of that. And you often feel that way if you don't get excessive amounts of sleep, like where most people can get by on like maybe 7 hours. If I don't get like 9, then I start to really, really struggle. Like my daytime tiredness is just punishingly bad. Also, god damn it, my light in the background just went off. I mean, it's fine, whatever. This is what I get for the light itself was like, fucking wrap it up, dude. I know it's your YouTube channel, but stop talking, play the game. This ancient mattress feels like it was specifically designed to destroy my back. That's me whenever I have to stay at a shitty hotel. Like I'm past that point in my life, like not to be a diva, but I'd rather not go on a trip than go on a trip where I'm having to sleep on a bed that makes my back hurt for the rest of the trip. It's fucking terrible and I cannot deal with that. I'd rather just wait and save up a little bit more and go on a trip where I can stay somewhere comfortable. It doesn't have to be a 5-star palace, but it has to be at least decently cozy. You know what I mean? As usual, I woke up drenched in cold sweat thanks to another stress-induced nightmare. Well, no comfort, but I'm alive. Fair trade, I guess. Outside the window, it was gray. It was a gray and overcast day. Yeah, it doesn't look like anything good will happen today, but I'm used to that. After stretching a bit, I decided to take a walk around this godforsaken village. I kept thinking about the local store, hopefully it wasn't closed yet. Otherwise, I'd have to rely on my childhood survival skills and go stealing apples from abandoned lots. How simple and carefree it would be to wander around looking for dubious food, if not for my current less than legal affairs. But who am I without them? I need to stock up on food for a couple of days and see what's going on around here. Maybe I'll run into some locals, get the news, and find out how life has changed in this corner of the world since I was last here. The early morning in this backwater is wrapped in an eerie calm, as if everything here is already dead, not just asleep. The air is fresh, as if it was just washed with fabric softener, and cold. It cuts straight to the bone. For July 6th, it was unusually cold, almost jacket weather. Still, there was something about this morning scenery that momentarily brought back a taste of life. It felt like I was 12 again. I remembered how, as kids, we'd run around here from early morning, darting between houses with the neighbor boy, under the grumbling shouts of old folks and the barking of dogs from other yards. The air filled my lungs, and my head even spun slightly from its freshness. Oh, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Does anyone else ever get that? You try to do like a deep, calming breath, and you feel lightheaded. I think it's just because it can like lower your blood pressure, which is a good thing, because if you're anxious like me, the deep breaths are supposed to. But then sometimes you feel like, whoa. That, or maybe I'm just, I turned 30, and now when I stand up too fast, I feel like I'm going to keel over and die. The scent of grass and damp earth surrounded me. It felt pleasant. It was unusual to breathe so easily, not as usual with city dust and grime. Walking through the quiet village, I seemed to slow down myself, adapting to its rhythm, its leisurely pace of life. Is this just how they write it in, is this their style? Or I just noticed the upside down cross in the queue, which is a cool little touch if that's just like a text style choice. All right, is anyone still in this town, or is it completely abandoned? The silence and calm around me unintentionally made me reflect on the past and ponder the future. Because I'm curious if he's going to come back and realize that the whole town's been consumed by whatever's in the forest. I looked at the empty windows and peeling walls. People used to live here, but now everything is crumbling, as if mocking my memories. Now there was only decay, and an oppressive sense that the past was irretrievably gone. I was almost at the store when my gaze caught on a house to the left. Once a sweet old lady lived there, a darling granny. She always sat by her house, offering us apples if we could show her where the Big Dipper was in the sky. Of course, we didn't know where the Big Dipper was and just pointed randomly at the sky. Granny didn't seem to care. She gave us apples anyway, chuckling to herself. Now her house was already leaning and completely overgrown with bushes. But the apple tree behind the house was still standing. Maybe I should pick a couple of apples for breakfast. At least I'd save some money. My stomach was already growling with hunger. It was time to decide where to get food for today. To the right was the store, where I figured I could grab a bite, assuming there was anything left inside. To the left was an abandoned lot with a crooked fence behind which the apple tree still stood. I stopped, pondering where to go. I feel like let's go to the shop. I want to know if anyone's still alive. That's my main curiosity, is if this town, if there's a single soul left since he's been gone. I stopped 5 steps away from the store, which looked almost comically like an island of nostalgia in this forgotten place. Old but sturdy, the peeling grocery sign above the door seemed inviting, despite its worn appearance. The windows were intact, and through their cloudy panes you could see the shelves and displays filled with something. The building's age didn't seem dilapidated. Instead, it gave it character, speaking of quiet confidence and resilience against time. The air around was filled with the same familiar sense of the village. For a moment, I felt like a kid again, coming to the store for ice cream and a waffle cone. Closed. There has to be someone in the only store in the village. Hey, anyone there? The sound of my own voice felt deafening in this silence. I kept tugging at the handle, not giving up on opening the door. Hey! Someone called out to me, and I flinched so hard I almost lost my balance. Sup, Gramps? Young man, why are you banging on the door? Ah, sorry. I thought the store was still open. It is open, just no one's inside. Do you need to buy something? Yeah, I wanted to see what you've got. Well, come on, I'll show you what we've got. I haven't seen you around here before. You a visitor? I nodded in agreement. What's your name? I'm Alexei. I introduced myself a bit awkwardly. Ah, Alyoshka, huh? You want anything? I gritted my teeth. I hated being called Alyosha. Let's just go with Alexei. Well, Alexei. Name Stepan. Laptev Stepan Volkovich. Pleased to meet you. I shook hands with my new acquaintance, who seemed to be a local, though I didn't remember him at all. Well, come on, what are you standing around for? Stefan, is it like Stepan or is it like Stepan? Took out a bunch of keys, felt around for the right one, and calmly unlocked the store. I followed him inside and found myself in a dark room. Hold on, Alexei, just a second. What's he fiddling with in the dark? I don't know. Hopefully he's just fiddling and not diddling himself. Looking for a sturdy stick to... I'll turn on the light, just a moment. Jesus, Gramps. You from the city? Yeah, from Moscow. I muttered reluctantly. I'm not used to sharing personal details with strangers, but Moscow is so huge that this information didn't really mean anything. It's like when you're abroad and someone is like, where you're from? And you're like, I'm from Los Angeles. Like you don't specify which section or area. If you're in Southern California, you just kind of say LA. Unless you're in like maybe San Diego, in which case some people might, know that as well. Oh, really? So, what are the young folks in the capital up to these days? Do you have a profession at least? The question was asked with such intensity that for a moment I felt like a schoolboy being called to the principal's office. However, I decided not to dodge and answered with partial truth. Yeah, I studied to be an electrician in college. I smirked to myself. No way I'm telling him about my actual profession. Oh, an electrician, that's a useful trade. You know, my radio here recently stopped working. Maybe you could take a look at it, electrician. I can't pay you for the repair, no money to spare these days, but I'll treat you to some tea. No, I'm hungry. Can I have a sandwich if I fix it, please? What a gig, I thought to myself with irony. I wasn't ready to return to my real problems just yet, so I wasn't in a hurry. And as long as I can remember, fixing various devices always came easily to me. Nothing too complicated, of course, but I could handle an old radio. I remember back when I was studying to be an electrician, I went to a couple of practical trainings out of pure curiosity. The job wasn't hard, maintenance of apartment building, electrical panels. Once I even found a stash that a courier colleague had seemingly hidden quite securely. I glanced at Stepan again, then shifted my gaze to the old radio sitting on the edge of the table. Why not help the old man? The radio is probably one of the very few forms of entertainment here. All right, let me take a look. Yes, it's over there. Go ahead and take a look. All right. As expected, an old radio clearly made in the Soviet Union. My grandparents had one like it. I think if I tried, I could probably find it somewhere in the attic. Honestly, I think fixing it shouldn't be too difficult. Let's see what we've got here. Oh, there's an actual puzzle game. Cool. Oh, it's one of these. We have to connect the tubes and all that. Oh, I like these, actually. Hold on. We can't swap them. Okay, that's fine. Connect those two. Connect this one. All right, this is like priority, I'm assuming. Yeah, connect those tubes to here. And then... I can't like drag stuff around though, can I? Oop. Hold on. What things do I need to connect? Hold on a minute. Okay, go around all the way to there. You connect to here. I'm assuming I should have to make all these connect, right? Like, how does this one connect? That's just an end cap, okay. Okay. You go around here, connect to that. Are some of these not supposed to connect to anything? Because I fear I may be doing something wrong. You connect? How do I test it to see if it's working or not? I'm assuming if it's not turned on yet, it's not working. Oh, I can connect those two together. Okay, hold on. I can figure this out. Give me a second. Oh, I'm seeing it now. Okay. It's that kind of a puzzle where if you don't get the first connective point up here in the right position, then the rest of it won't connect correctly, you know? Like that, yeah, that's going to connect down to there. Then you connect down like that. Yeah. Then, where do you connect, little nubbin? Unless maybe these two connect? Okay, hold on. This feels more right. Hold on. Oops. There? Yay, return to game. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we should have to reroute it so all the little connective tabs looped back to it. All right, that wasn't too bad. I didn't expect there to even be any gameplay, honestly, so it was fun having a little puzzle in there. All right, looks like it's ready. Time to test it. Come on, play me a good tune. Like, hey, yo, Gramps, you like Metallica? This one now goes up to 11. Oh, look, it's working. Oops. Well, you've got golden hands. A real craftsman, I can tell. Oh, stop it. I mean, I do have golden hands. That's what your wife said last night. I'm just kidding. I'm on the run from my crimes. You know, this radio isn't just any ordinary run. One time, there was a funny story about it. My cat back then, Vazia, little black devil he was. And I closed the store and sat down to dinner. Well, sort of. Him? Yes, you see, Vazia is still in radio. I put him in there for safekeeping after he died. I sat down at the table and gave the cat some soup in his bowl. Cat can have a little soup as a treat. I turn on the radio and they're talking about some kind of dance music. I hear Vasya start meowing, and suddenly, as the music starts playing, he gets up and starts dancing on his hind legs. Vasya, tear up the dance floor. I laughed so hard. Later, I tried to play music for him again, but he just gave me a lazy look and went to sleep. I don't know if that was Vasya, the demon in cat form, just like tearing it up on the dance floor. Stepan looked at me as if he was gauging my reaction to his story. But I was just sitting there confused. Yeah, the fuck are you talking about? Thank you, Alexei. We won't die of boredom now, that's for sure. It's nothing. I gave a crooked smile and spread my hands. Well, as promised, let's go. I'll pour you some tea. You'll tell me how city folk live these days. I hadn't eaten anything since this morning. The old man seemed nice enough. I figured I wouldn't say no to some tea. I nodded in agreement. Well, that's wonderful. Let's go. Walking behind Stepan into another room, I couldn't shake the intrusive image of a cat dancing on its hind legs. Fuck it up, Vazia. Where'd you go? Oh, man. When you're making fun of me, this is who you're making fun of. I'm little Vazia on the dance floor. I should have a goth club with Vazia there. Black cat just out there jamming out to the Smiths or something. Oh, this place looks dreadful, not gonna lie. No offense, but bottled with murky liquid. Is that moonshine, I thought? It looked like regular village hooch, but with the added bonus of a couple of flies floating inside. Yummy. Just looking at the bottle made me queasy. Stepan probably forgot about it ages ago. The tools hang in a neat row, looking more like decorations. It's obvious some haven't been used in ages. The rust and dust speak for themselves. Stepan probably used to do a lot of handiwork back in the day. A boar's stuffed head on the wall. I never understood how anyone could like that. It looks silly with those bulging eyes and exposed tusks. It's clear no one has touched it for years, so much dust. An old photo in a crooked frame, clearly not hung yesterday. Who is she? Probably Stepan's mother or wife. She looked as stern as my college instructor. I cautiously surveyed the storage room of the shop. The air was thick with the musty scent of wood, sweet mold, and some kind of pickled goods. Stepan, visibly excited by the unexpected company, set about brewing tea. Oh, what little cookies you make. I do not think you are a good cook, so I may not try. Stepan sat down at the table. He looked at me, barely holding back the questions that were about to burst out of him. It was clear that the old man didn't often have guests and was genuinely happy to chat with me. Look at that smile, what a cutie. So, how do you like it here? Not many folks from the city wander this way. I noticed how Stepan tried to hide his awkward excitement behind a smile. I smiled back, decided to keep the conversation going. Yeah, it's really different here, quiet and homely. Cows, goats. I listed the first things that came to mind. You rarely see this kind of thing in the city. Stepan nodded, lost in thought, still holding his cup. So, what brings you here? I paused to think about how to answer him. Obviously, I couldn't tell him I was hiding here from shady characters. He might report me to the cops. I could just say I came to my grandparents' house. Or make something up, like I'm here to buy a house. Let's just still be honest that we did come to see grandmother's house. He doesn't need to know anything else behind that, but let's be somewhat honest. Yeah, I'm here to tidy up my grandparents' house. Hold on, my throat's scratchy. I need part of my water. Y'all, everyone water break, all right? You all do the same. Stepan seemed to ponder, sifting through memories of the remaining elders in this backwater. I decided not to make him guess. They're not here anymore, with us. Margarita and Nikolai Pavlov. Oh, I see. So you're Rita and Kolya's grandson. They were wonderful people. I can still picture them in their youth. Young folks always flock to the cities, but here in the village, it has its own charms. Rita and Kolya understood that better than anyone. Back in the day, we were really close friends with them. In winter, we sled like crazy, and in spring, some in the garden, others in the fields, from morning till night. And when summer came, everyone relaxed, body and soul, Russian banya, fishing, all sort of summer vacations or summer celebrations. Stepan paused and gave me a piercing look, as if trying to see if I understood what he was talking about. By the way, today is going to be one of the most important ones. Important whats? Like celebrations? Y'all gonna sacrifice me or something? The night of July 6th to 7th is Ivan Kupala night, if you didn't know. We loved that holiday when we were young. The soul, as they say, longed for song. We'd jump over the bonfire and tell all sorts of spooky tales. They said that on Kupala night, devils crawled out of their holes. They were crawling out of your holes? I don't want anything crawling in or out of my holes, Stepan. In our village, people always believed in all sorts of devilry. We were old believers. They were so scared you couldn't drag them into the woods by their arms and legs on Kupala night. So, anyway, I remember one of those nights. The whole village was out celebrating again. The guys were singing songs and lighting fires while the girls were, as usual, doing fortune-telling. They'd put flower crowns on their head and run to the riverbank. They'd let the crowns float on the water to learn their fate. Wherever it drifted, that's where their groom would come from. If it washed ashore, no wedding that year. Well, that's all just folklore, of course. Your granny Ritka sent her crown down the river too, and you can't believe it. It floated a little, then shot forward like Kupala himself was steering it. And right there on the other side was Kolyan. The girl started giggling right away, and Kolyan, clueless as ever, just barely managed to catch Ritka as she jumped into his arms. That same summer, your grandma and grandpa got married. They were good people. Well, never mind. Yeah, I'm like, what evil happened to the village? It seems like it was like small and superstitious, but overall pretty pleasant, like not necessarily like plagued by bad things. Stepan's words hung in the silence, even the wind outside seemed to quiet. The story about my grandma and grandpa, simple yet so vivid, really struck me. I'd seen them in old photos, younger, happier than I remembered. Were they really like that, jumping over bonfires, weaving flower crowns? I suddenly felt a strange bitterness, realizing how little I actually knew about them. What would they say about me now? The thought planted itself deep, but I quickly brushed it aside to avoid diving further. Stepan let out a heavy sigh and continued. You know, Alexei, in our village, sometimes it's like a fairy tale, I'd say. Jesus Christ. Stepan, did you have a little demon seizure there? But not always the kind with the happy ending. So you better be careful around here. Okay, so I'm like, is everyone here dead and these are like their spirits coming out of the forest? Because I'm like, this bottle of rancid wine, the pictures, the taxidermy, the unused rusting tools, like, I'm not convinced he's actually here. I tensed up and raised an eyebrow, not hiding my surprise. What do you mean? Well, you see, a couple of years back, a family moved here from Moscow. They said they were looking for peace, quiet, and tranquility. So they arrived with 2 young sons in tow. And those rascals found no better pastime than to turn the whole village upside down. Every night, the revelry made a racket like a festival, but there was no joy in it. We tried talking to them nicely, you know, but they couldn't care less. So anyway, one Kupala night, they decided to have their own kind of fun. They dragged some girl from a neighboring village and headed to the river through the forest, where even locals hesitate to tread during the day. They probably thought they'd find magic in our forests, or whatever you city folk are after. Night passed, and by morning, they were nowhere to be found. The police searched the whole forest with dogs, but only found the girl by nightfall. They said she was scared to death, couldn't speak, just muttered and babbled incoherently. As for the boys, all that was left were a couple of bloodied scraps of clothing. It was like the earth had swallowed them whole. The district officer told me back then that those punks probably got the girl drunk and wanted to violate her. They dragged her into the forest, but no one could figure out what happened to them after that. They tried questioning the girl, but she couldn't say anything then or later. Her eyes kept darting around, and she just kept mumbling something endlessly. So they couldn't figure out anything back then. The investigation concluded later that apparently some forest beasts had mauled them. And to calm the villagers, they made our forester, Petrovich, set up traps in the forest to keep the beasts away from the homes. It's reminding me a little bit of The Village by M. Night Shyamalan, which is a great concept with a messy execution, in my opinion. I listened to Stepan's story with some tension. This was nothing like my grandmother's fairy tales, but somewhere deep in my subconscious, the image of Banebush emerged, and my imagination instinctively tied the events to him. After all, encountering him in the forest years ago, it convinced me that some fairy tales don't lie. I brushed the thought aside and asked the first question that popped into my head. Maybe the Leshy took them. Maybe the Leshy took them, or maybe it was the beasts. That's for each person to decide what to believe and what to think. And the investigation will decide for itself and what to write in the report. I think I've heard enough local tales for today. I really need to focus on figuring out how to solve my own problems. Time to head home. Stepan Wolfovich, thanks for the tea and the talk. I should get going. I want to tidy up the house. Ah, yes, of course. Go ahead. Thanks again for fixing the radio. If you need anything, feel free to drop by. Look at that. Here, take some bagels. Have them with tea. My treat. I don't know if I want to eat these, but I don't want to refuse. Maybe he is here. Maybe he is nice. Maybe he's not dead. Without much thought, I grabbed the bag of bagels from the table. I didn't want to refuse and disappoint the old man. Besides, I originally came here for food. Thank you. Goodbye. Stepan kept beaming his trademark smile. Yeah, you little cutie. I smiled back at him and stepped outside. All right, you creepy son of a bitch. But hey, hospitable enough. Ah, Vasia, you beautiful baby. What's up, Vaska? Oh, it's Vaska, that's right. How'd your feel of roaming? Well, come on in. What are you standing there for? Oh, but I want to see the cat dance some more. You can't just hint at that game and not let that happen to me directly. Like, we imagined it, but that's not the same. Well, that was quite the trip for some bread, I chuckled. I slightly scolded myself for spending the whole day listening to the strange old man's stories instead of tackling my real problems. The stories were interesting, but I had to return to my grim reality. As I approached my new home, I was already anticipating flopping onto the creaky, prehistoric bed with a contented look on my face. But it seemed fate had other plans. In front of my house stood an old Lada 2108, and I can make out 3 familiar faces inside. Ah, shit. It was Pasha Foman and his goons, Vasya and the third one. Can't remember his name. Uh-oh. What if we run into the forest and sacrifice them to the Banebush thing? Like, I think that would set things square. Well, hello there, villager. Hey. I replied, trying to hide my tension. I'm so screwed. So, what the hell are you doing here, Alyosha? You know how much of a hassle it was to drag ourselves out of this backwater. How the hell did you even find me? Shut your fucking mouth and listen. If you'd worked longer and honestly, maybe you'd have thought to shove your work SIM card somewhere safe. And didn't use it near the house registered to you. So, we promote you and send you on the big job, and this is how you thank us, running off with our stuff. You know exactly what happens to smartasses like that. Foma, I had nothing to do with this. While I was transporting the stuff, some guys cut me off in a car and robbed me at gunpoint, took all your shit. What the fuck? You seriously think I'm that stupid? Foma, I've always done my job honestly. This looks like a setup to me. Maybe you sent those bastards yourselves and are now trying to screw me over. Are you fucking kidding me? Who are you questioning right now? You think it's hard for me to kill you and bury you in this backwater? No one's ever going to find you here, you dumbass. I'm not trying to act tough. Fomin. Calm down. How am I supposed to get you the stuff I don't have? I don't give a damn, you bitch. Do whatever you want. Give birth or shit it out. Jesus. The situation was escalating. Yeah, I'd say so. I think you're about 2 sentences away from getting killed. I clenched my jaw, feeling my racing pulse pounding in my temples. I want this stuff in my hands by morning. Try to run and you won't be able to walk anymore. Well, except to piss and shit yourself. Shut up, little side character. And this guy doesn't even get lines. He's just looking over here like, man, my mom said I should have been doctor, and now here I am with bald scary man. Got it, Alyosha. Got it. Naturally. Well, assuming that's chapter 2 then. The sound of the departing car's engine started the countdown. Well, time to take a depression nap and see what happens tomorrow. Bastards. Great hiding spot, Alyosha. I sarcastically praised myself. Why don't you feed him one of the bagels? I have a feeling these things will kill somebody. Now what? What if I sell the house and use the money to buy drugs to replace the lost shipment? No, selling the house is a hassle. Finding a buyer would take forever, and at best, I'd get $100,000 out of it. Running is not an option. They'll find me again, and then I'm really screwed. Shit, what the fuck do I do now? Not get in this mess in the first place is probably like the recommended option, but a little late for that, I know. In despair, I grabbed my head. I wanted to tear out my hair, scream, break something, but none of that would help. The helplessness was driving me insane. Hey, Grandma, speak to me, all right? Speak to me like the grandma tree in Pocahontas. If the world turns its back on you, go to the forest. There you'll find either salvation or death. The forest is honest. At this point, either of those options seems like they would be preferable to getting the shit beat out of me by the 3 goons. I suddenly remembered my grandmother's words as clearly as if her voice were speaking right next to me. What if Grandma was right? What if there's really something out there? I saw it in that forest as a kid. If Banebush is really there, he'll either kill me outright or help me. If I'm screwed anyway, what difference does it make? There was always something strange about this place. The old folk stories, the vanished people, the whispers in the forest. I looked out the window. I mean, why not? You don't have any other options, so fuck it. The forest is honest, I kept repeating to myself, staring at the dark grove. Going there was madness, yes, but at least I'd have some kind of chance. There was no other way. Okay. A few minutes into my journey and the trees closed in around me as if blocking my path. Stepping forward was terrifying, but staying still was even worse. Okay. I don't know how many chapters there are. I'm kind of assuming 3, like a nice, clean 3-act structure, because that, I don't know, that feels intuitively like what would make the most sense for this game. Clouds, almost completely hidden by the dense canopy of trees, hovered over the endless forest expanses. All right, here, before we dive into this chapter, I'm going to grab myself a water and give myself a quick water break, because I need it. I usually am not reading this much. I'm talking a lot, but it's different for whatever reason, as like reading text for such an extended period of time gives me the worst like dry mouth. So hold on. Clouds, almost completely hidden by the dense canopy of trees, hovered over the endless forest expanses. Moss soaked with moisture spread underfoot like a soft carpet, muffling the sound of footsteps. The air, rich with the scent of soil and decaying leaves, was damp and heavy, settling in my lungs and clouding my mind. The whisper of leaves, the occasional snap of twigs underfoot, the distant cries of birds created the illusion of another dimension. Here I felt like an insignificant human, an uninvited guest. Thoughts about my past life slowly filled my mind. The endless struggle for money in a quiet corner of the metropolis, where each new day brought new challenges. The life of a dealer full of fear and the constant threat of disaster poisoned the soul, exposing its flaws. I didn't even notice how I became a paranoid person who, on any ordinary evening, expected someone to break into my house. My imagination painted the faces of people whose lives were poisoned by my dealings, their eyes filled with desperate bitterness. Here in the depths of the forest, all my past felt like a burden dragging me to the ground. To the realization that I had dug my own grave. It's unfair. Why do I have to seek salvation now among these trees and darkness? What will the Banebush do when, if I find him? If the stories are true, he wasn't entirely merciless. After all, he didn't kill the girl from Stepan's story, who naively trusted the thugs from the capital. Maybe this Banebush only helped the innocent. But hopefully not, because in that case, yeah, that's the case, I'm screwed, I chuckled. Now we're laughing about this. Of course, that's how it feels when everything's going wrong. At a certain point, you're just like, fuck it, it's all a mess, who cares? Alright, thoughts about the Banebush and his possible protection no longer brought me comfort. They only plunged me into new terror. What if he's not an ally at all, but another threat far scarier than any city gangsters? What if I just die here? I don't even know what's worse, surrendering to the cops or venturing into the forest at night to find the Leshy. What a fucking mess. I ventured deeper into the forest, which had already turned into a trap. I felt like I was in the jaws of a giant rabid dog, which were gradually closing, leaving less and less space to breathe. Every rustle, every creak of a branch made my heart skip a beat in fear. I remembered again how my grandmother, sitting by the statue, would quietly tell me her stories.
Remember, Lyosha, the forest always watches,
she would say, looking straight into my eyes.
It knows all your thoughts, senses fear from a mile away. It feeds on it.
Now her words echoed in my head like a warning. Having lost track of time and distance traveled, I tried to suppress the fear within. Oh, I skipped. I was so tense just listening. I skipped it. Suddenly, the deep silence of the forest was pierced by a plaintive howl. I froze. My heart began pounding twice as hard, threatening to burst out of my chest. Holding my breath, I tried to pinpoint where the sorrowful sound was coming from. The howl came again, more insistent this time, as if beckoning me. My heart pounded louder in my chest. An inner voice insistently whispered, "Wandering aimlessly through the forest won't get me anywhere." Obeying the call, I started moving, slowly drawing closer to the source of the sound with each step. Okay. Oh, interesting. I pushed through the thicket and emerged onto a clearing bathed in pale moonlight. And there in the moonlight quivered the figure of a large black wolf. A trap had sunk deeply and mercilessly into one of its paws. Whimpering in pain and trembling in a hunched position, The wolf no longer tried to free itself. Its gaze, filled with suffering, pierced me. The animal seemed to hope for my help. Well, what a quest, I thought. I stood frozen, unable to steady the tremble in my hands, as my emotions feverishly jumped from pity to fear. Gathering the remnants of my composure, I approached the wolf. It's funny, it really is a cool art design. Having the red be like the highlighting for a lot of the different designs is really effective. And I'm a sucker for it myself, because like if I had the choice, I would deck out my entire office with red and black. Like that's a color combo I've loved forever. All right, I examined the trap and immediately realized it couldn't be opened with my bare hands. A thin and sharp tool was needed to access the lock mechanisms. Maybe it's for the best, I thought. Who knows what might happen if I were to free this wolf? Oh, so maybe if you choose a different branching path, you're going to find something if you explore. Sorry, friend, I can't help you. Trembling from tension, I muttered aloud and quickly backed away. Sure, I felt sorry for the wolf, but I came here to help myself. Yeah, but it feels like a bad omen that we weren't not able to actually help the wolf. My hide's worth more to me. I firmly pushed away unnecessary thoughts and kept wandering aimlessly. I was tired. My steps grew clumsy and my thoughts tangled like the interwoven branches above, but I kept walking. Oh, hey, big friend. Fuck. I stumbled onto a clearing and barely had time to look around when a tall, twisted figure appeared among the trees. I froze in another wave of terror. There wasn't a single sound around, only my heart pounding with all its strength. A creature resembling a twisted human watched me, extending a hand in my direction. My sanity slipped further away, sinking along with my courage. For a while, I watched the silhouette that had frightened me, but it remained motionless. I slowly moved a bit closer. Stay calm. When I finally dared to approach, it became clear it was just a tree stump. No, it wasn't. That shit moved. A nervous chuckle escaped my chest, futilely attempting to shake off the tension. I looked close with the unnaturally twisted tree trunk. You old so-and-so, you got me. You made me think you were a demonic entity about to rip my guts out. Silly me. On one of the branches, resembling an outstretched arm, hung a fly agaric or agaric mushroom. I don't know. I've never seen this word before in my life. Its crimson hue reminded me of a cigarette ember glowing in the dark. A question echoed in my mind. How could it possibly end up on the branch, as if someone had hung it there just for me? Yeah, the forest seemed especially full of hints today. Am I going to eat it? Am I supposed to eat it? Unexpectedly for myself, I shouted out loud. My voice echoed through the forest and faded away without receiving an answer. You know, eat it. Here's the thing. Out of all the options, you're either it's going to kill you, it's going to nourish you, or it's going to make you go insane from the high you're probably going to get off of it. Fuck it. We're going to eat it. Why not? Like, yeah, I got a trophy for it called Get the Hints. I don't know if it would have helped if I had known what kind of mushroom that was. That thing's going to come to life with the mushroom, huh? Oh, he's wiggling. Oh, we're dancing. Okay. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, wobbly. The bitterness of the fly agaric slid down my throat, its pulp reaching the walls of my stomach. The taste of earth and a bittersweet slice of the forest filled my insides. My consciousness slowly dissolved, and the images of trees blurred before my eyes. I wandered aimlessly through the forest, feeling each step reverberate as a pulse in my skull. The tree canopies closed above my head, their rustling growing louder and merging into a swarm of unnatural, oppressive sounds. The ground beneath my feet felt soft and damp like living flesh, while roots writhed, trying to entangle my legs. Die! Someone yelled at me from the darkness, forcing me to stop abruptly. My head spun so much that I didn't realize when I had already turned toward the sound. Behind the trees, familiar figures began to emerge. Baring their teeth, they grinned predatorially at me as if I were prey. What the fuck, rat? Trying to lay low in the woods? I'll grind you into the dirt with this whole forest. We'll tear you apart and fertilize the ground with your guts. Got it?
Nah, we'll slice you up so every beast in this forest gets a piece.
And you'll howl like a beaten mutt. I heard their voices, vile and hoarse, creeping through the thicket. Each sound turned into a burning ember, painfully melting my brain. These creatures weren't human. I hated them to the point of trembling, to the icy venom coursing through my veins. Fucking bastards! I screamed and broke into a run, zigzagging between the trees just to stop seeing their faces. I ran for a long time. My lungs started burning from within, slowed to a walk. The feeling of an alien presence didn't go away. The shadows of trees moved in sync with my steps, and I felt deep within that someone or something was always watching me from the depths of the thicket. Peering into the darkness, I saw my grandmother. Grandma, you look different. I wanted to rush forward and hug her, but her face, distorted in a horrifying way, suddenly spoke in a quiet, raspy voice.
Once a cowardly boy decided to run away from his troubles. He ventured into the depths of the forest to seek out the Leshy and ask for help. That night, inhuman screams could be heard from the other side of the forest.
And what happened to him, Grandma?
Just listen! The Leshy slowly tore that bitch apart while he was still wheezing, and the wolves were feasting on whatever fell to the ground.
I wandered recklessly through the dark thicket, sometimes walking, sometimes breaking into a run without regard for the path. I was lost in time and space. My consciousness was being crushed from within, and my legs trembled so much I could barely move them. The sound of the forest merged into a quiet whisper, creating a single vibration. Suddenly, from all sides, a heavy, creaky voice sounded.
Why did you come to me?
Help! They want to kill me! My plea sounded pathetic. My voice trembled and my breath came in ragged gasps. The forest was silent. Everything around grew quiet, except for the occasional drops of dew falling from the branches to the ground. These were the tears of other losers who had come here like me and couldn't make it back. The voice crackled again.
You're not the first to come to me. Many have sought salvation among my trees.
Did they find it? My words dissolved into the air, and the forest only listened intently, in no hurry to answer. It is alive. The wind was its breath, its heartbeat, to the rhythm of a woodpecker strikes, its roots intertwined as veins, and millions of worms streamed as blood beneath the earth.
You've gone where neither your feet nor your soul should venture. Here, blood soaks into the roots more easily than rain.
The forest answered me with a rustle that sounded like laughter. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end.
No one leaves here in one piece.
What are you talking about? What do you want? Standing before me was not the monster I had expected to see. He resembled an old man with a thin, twisted body like dry roots, and his skin was cracked like wood scorched by lightning. His eyes burned with a crimson fire like embers in a dying campfire. His clothing was nothing more than rotting rags except for a tattered red polka dot scarf on his arm. A black hollow gaped in his forehead, resembling the rotting cavity of a tree, oozing thick, dark sludge. It dripped onto the ground, its stench so overpowering it took my breath away. My stomach climbed toward my throat, the air around me filled with the stench of decay, and it became hard even to swallow. I stood rooted to the spot, jaw slack, staring at the Leshy until his voice jolted me awake.
The Eye.
What?
Your eye worm. A vile soul, but a sharp eye. If you've found me.
When it dawned on me what he meant, my legs buckled and my vision darkened. Nausea rose to my throat and I barely held back the urge to vomit. Maybe you need something else. I whimpered the question in a pathetic attempt to bargain with the ancient forest spirit. I wanted to bolt and run, but my legs seemed rooted to the ground, leaving me unable to move.
An eye or your life. Choose.
I think we gotta pay it. I think it's a bleak situation, but like what? The alternative is you get beat to death? Like, better to lose a little bit of depth perception, but still be able to, like, see the rest of your life somewhat. I guess let's do it. I'm worried that because we're on the mushrooms, that this isn't even real, though, and we're gonna lose an eye for no reason, but fuck it, let's do it. My hands jerked toward my face. The will to live tore me apart, screaming like a wounded animal, drowning out even the terror of what was about to happen. I could already feel his sharp, thorn-like fingers digging into my eye socket. I wanted to scream, to beg a god I'd never believed in, but the words stuck in my throat. All that remained was trembling and an all-consuming horror coursing through my veins. My mind simply refused to believe what was happening, but I had already made my choice. I stood there, unable to make a sound, and silently nodded in agreement until fear snapped me back. The pain was unbearable. The world around me exploded in red light. It felt as if a red-hot hook was driven into my eye socket and started pulling. I heard a squelching sound, like when something wet is torn away from something sticky. I felt nerves and veins tearing, the pulsating eyeball being wrenched from my skull. Warm streams of blood ran down my cheek, filling my nose and mouth, choking me with its metallic, nauseating taste. Through the veil of pain, I heard the screams of the creatures that brought me here. Their gut-wrenching cries, steeped in primal terror, pierced the forest. One of them screamed as if being torn apart from within. His voice broke into a rasp, replaced by a gurgling, wet sound, as though his lungs had turned to bloody pulp. Someone squealed like a pig at the slaughter, interrupted by the crunch of bones and tearing flesh. I lay there listening to Leshy tear these bastards apart, their lives fading one by one. At first I wanted to cover my ears, but then I couldn't. I enjoyed hearing it. My lips stretched into a smile on their own, and my chest felt empty and light. I laughed loudly. That was really good. That was creepy as hell and really well written, actually. Ooh. Ministry of Internal Affairs of the Russian Federation, case 0707. Is that us, I'm assuming? Let's say you were accused of killing bandits and left in a mental hospital. Oh wait, hold on. Did I actually click on the document? Oh shit. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to screw it up at the end there. I'm like, oh, okay, hold on, because I'm like, I could even like after I save the file, I could load it back up and read that section again in a second. But I mean, fuck me, that was creepy as hell. Let me see. Okay, because that's the one option. Oh, we can read it again. Thank you, game. Thank you. God, I was saying it earlier. Like, a game that lets you have a history to be able to check previous text, either if you skipped it by accident or if you just need to go back and, like, reevaluate something that happened earlier. But being able to also check out the ending is amazing. Okay. Following report, in forested area, the bodies of 3. Okay. All the deceased exhibited multiple stab wounds. At some distance from the crime scene, Alexei Tikhonovich Smirnov was found unconscious with a severe injury, his eye missing. According to an initial medical examination, Smirnov was under the influence of hallucinogenic mushrooms, and thorough examination of the crime scene was conducted, including fingerprint collection. Expertise results. It was determined that all victims died as a result of multiple stab wounds inflicted by sharp objects, presumably wooden stakes. Fingerprints belonging to Smirnov were found on the bodies and personal belongings of the deceased at the crime scene. Blood traces leading from the victims' bodies to the location where Smirnov was discovered matched his blood type, a suspected murder weapon in the form of a sharpened fragment. A forensic psychiatrist evaluation determined that Smirnov Alexei Tikhonovich was legally insane at the time of the crime. Based on the collected evidence, witness statements? Who? There was no one else to see there. Them interviewing the demon. So, what'd you see, boss?
I swear he was just off his fucking tits, man. He go crazy.
And the results of the psychiatric evaluation, Smirnov Alexei Tikhonovich is to be committed to compulsory treatment in a psychiatric prison. Oh, shit. That's so interesting, because I'm like, I think there is something legitimate to the story about the creature in the forest. Like, I think some of it is twisted because of him doing the mushrooms. But here's my thing I'm curious about is, like, maybe the only way to meet that creature is to do the shrooms. That's like your entrance fee to be able to, like, I'll be allowed to see him. But of course, then on the flip side, then you could also just say that he maybe went insane, you know? He just went crazy. Like, high doses of mushrooms do make you... They can make you do crazy fucking shit. Like, I've never experienced that myself, but, like, I know the whole thing is, like, mushrooms... Most people never have them at doses that are actually hallucinogenic, not severely, but they can be. If you have it really, really crazy, it can fry your fucking brain. Like, you can really turn yourself inside out in that way. So that was really cool, though. That was well written, good build-up. I think the writing and the design for just the forest itself being this, like, blood red in space and environment was so naturally creepy. And the character designs on top of that were really good, really, really unnerving, and the writing really sold it. So sound design too, really, really good. Great way to make it feel almost like an audio role play in the way he was using immersive sounds to flesh out what the text was saying. And I think that was really cool. So anyway, I might on my own time go back and play through some of the other endings. And I'm thinking like, maybe if I feel up to it, I'll play through up until one of the choices, one of the branching paths. And if I'm feeling up to it that day, maybe I'll record a little more and go through some of the different alternate paths, just because most of these kind of games I'm not interested enough to go back to, frankly, because they're not always that well written. They're not always intriguing enough to make me want to dive back in. But this one's good enough that I'm really curious to know who else we could have met and what other backstory we could have learned and how that would have affected the final ending. I'm wondering like if the wolf would have saved us. Like that act of mercy would have allowed us to be able to, the wolf would have gone after the bad guys and would have like gotten us away from it clean without any, evidence leading us to what had happened, like maybe that's like the trade-off of doing something merciful to be able to receive mercy for yourself. But that was cool though. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought. And if there's any other weird, odd little indie horror things you think I should give a try, feel free to comment down below. Let me know what you guys want me to play, and I'll try to get to it. So anyway, thank you so much for watching and listening. My name is Dominic, and I will see you next time. Bye.